listening to Chicago's Afternoon News. It is 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock. The song is I Want to Be Elected, and one of the people who wants to be elected is in the studio with us now, Frederick Collins, a member of the Chicago Police Department. Frederick, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what is it? Why do you want to be the mayor of the city of Chicago?
Well, for me, it's very simple. The city of Chicago isn't just a city to me. It's my home. It's where I was born and raised. It's where I've raised my family, my 3 children, my grandchildren. And so for me, home should be a place that's safe. Home should be a place where there's not fear, but hope and promise.
You've been in the department 30 years?
Almost 30 years.
And you said this is the worst you've seen it.
This is by far the absolute worst.
And tell me, you were talking off the air, it's because of the age of the people that are committing the crimes, or explain that for me.
Well, it's a number of factors. It's the breakdown in the home. It's the breakdown in policy by our current politicians in office. And it is an erosion of the respect for law and order.
And so you're arresting young people rather than adults. It's young people who are...
Without a doubt, the majority of the arrests committed in this country today are due to children. You just saw one in Boston the other day. Every day you turn on the news, we're hearing about more 9-year-old, 11-year-old, 17-year-olds with automatic weapons. When have you ever heard that frequently as you've heard it now?
So it's been the theme of the show, and I mean the theme of the city in many ways, in that people agree that the solutions are long-term systemic solutions. You talked about the family and things like that. But we need a fix tomorrow. So how do you balance that if you're mayor?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to be knowledgeable of the diverse communities and the cultures in which we deal with, especially within a great city like the city of Chicago. And understanding those cultures and those various diverse communities, what are the main concerns and what can we do to make policies that reflect what citizens really want and what will make them feel safe?
You talked about the policies from City Hall. A lot of officers are very upset about the foot pursuit or the chase policies. What
Exactly.
Do you explain that for me.
Well, it makes no sense. If you really take a look at common sense, the no chase policy, the minute the current administration came out, the mayor came out with that, criminals just embraced it with love because they knew that if they committed a crime, they didn't have to worry about being pursued by law enforcement, which means they could basically get away with committing
murder. Okay, so you're in the street, you're in Pilsen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so take me to one of those scenarios where you see someone do something, and there have been times you say, well, I guess we just have to let them go?
Oh, you can hear it every day on the police scanners. Let's say, for instance, there's a carjacking. Me and my partner are handling an arrest or patrolling right down the street from it, less than half a block from it. We get the description. We start pulling up on the scene. We see the vehicle. We see the victim yelling, hey, that's my vehicle. They just grabbed my vehicle. They just threw me to the ground and shot at me. And we go over the radio and say, we've got that vehicle in sight. We're now pursuing that vehicle going northbound on Halsted Street. We're now at 17th and Halsted Street. We're pulling up on that vehicle. I'm giving you the plate number now, squad. Squad acknowledges and says, okay. Automatically, you're going to hear right over the police scanner, cancel that chase.
And it's over.
It's over with.
That's Frederick Collins.
And let me tell you something. When you hear criminals joke about it and say they're listening to the police scanner, and they hear cancel that chase, they're congratulating, high-fiving each other in that car.
That's Frederick Collins, a 29-year veteran of the police department. He's running for mayor. Do you think the police union is well served by its leadership?
I think leadership has to change within the police union. I think there's some things that we can do better. I certainly would like to see new leadership. Mm-hmm. I was excited about when we first got change in some of the head leadership of our police union, but I believe that there has been a decay in the way that our president has handled certain things.
You are promising, was it a 15-year property tax freeze?
We're going to do a 15-year property tax freeze, but not only a 15-year.
Frederick, how can you make that commitment?
Easy. Leadership has to create a path. It just can't follow a path. when you're talking about real leadership, you have to create a path. And yes, we can do a 15-year property tax freeze. Not only that, but we can lower the current property taxes by 50% and still do a 15-year property tax freeze. Chicago doesn't have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. And as you take a look at City Hall, you see all the fiefdom that's happening within City Council.
The mayor of New York, newly elected, is a former New York City cop, right?
Yes, sir.
You going to school on him a little bit?
I agree with some of the things that he's definitely come out with, because no society can exist in peace without law and order. It's impossible.
Now, you've run for mayor before.
Yes.
You've run for Congress a couple of times.
Yeah, I ran for Congress once.
And withdrew earlier. You talked about running a second time, right?
Right.
All right. So why is it that you keep coming back to the fire here?
Because I took on public service at the age of 17 years old. At 17 years old, I got involved in my first ever campaign. I became very knowledgeable of how important policy and elections truly are. Through my grandfather, I met a young man who was a chubby young man by the name of Harold Washington.
Yeah.
And my grandfather held a very high regard within our community. I grew up in the Henry Horner Projects. And listening to the things and the way he was able to motivate people to make change and to bring hope in people's eyes that things could change and that power really belonged to us, the people, and that we should have a say-so not only in our government but in our education and in law when it comes to how we'd like to be governed.
He did it without any hocus-pocus dominocus.
That's it. And it's really, you have to have a love for people and humanity, and I really do. I just enjoy people, regardless of race, creed, or color, or religion.
Okay, so you're a copper, so we would imagine you would have some experience there. We talked about the pursuit policy. What else would you change in the city to make it safer?
Well, one of the things I would also change in the city to make it more safer is enforcing the law, enforcing curfew, but not just enforcing curfew, but making sure that those parents who are having issues with dealing with their children, making sure that we get family services involved, making sure that we hold accountable in our schools, making sure that our children are attending school, and having after-school programs and different things to gather their attention, but also making sure that we understand that the community and policing are one unit, that we have to work together. This is an all-in process, no one left out.
We're talking to Frederick Collins, who's running for mayor. Frederick, I appreciate you coming in. In fairness, this next question is a fair one and an appropriate one. You talk about the need for trust between the department and the community.
Yes, sir.
And you've had 40 complaints filed against you as a cop. More than 94% of other officers. That's according to what I read in the Sun-Times. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, I would say that it shows I'm doing my job. If there's only 40 criminals who complained against me in almost 30 years, then none of them were happy to go to jail.
6 times you were disciplined.
Well, you know what? 6 times they say discipline, but actually that's inaccurate, because when they say that, well, let me tell you what actually happens.
Sure.
Allegations are allegations. I have 0 convictions of any crime I've ever committed while a police officer. Okay. No one ever took me to court for anything. And what happens is the administrations of the past, rather than give due process to police officers, what they've done is just settle cases.
And ended it.
And allegations, that's it. They've just paid them off. And when I become mayor, we're going to do away with this police lottery. We're going to do actually due process. We're going to involve cases. And where there's evidence that leads us to believe that an officer has betrayed his badge and trust, then we're going to go ahead and pursue those things. But where people, criminals have come in and filed complaints because they were upset that they got caught, well, guess what? We're also going to pursue them.
I've got to go. We've got to end this. But what's your favorite part about the campaign trail?
You know what? Meeting people
in the radio?
And listening twice as hard. My mother once told me, she said, Frederick, I'm going to give you the true secret to life. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth because he wants you to listen twice as hard rather than just speaking, because you learn through listening. I want to be a mayor who works for the citizens, all the citizens of Chicago, and who listens to what they want and work on their behalf.
That's Frederick Collins. You'll have a chance to vote for him coming up next year. Thanks very much. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It's Chicago's Afternoon News here on 720 WGN. We're going to head into the Northwestern Medicine Newsroom.